All right, welcome back to the channel. So Manny Pacquiao versus Yordenis Ugas pay-per-view may be doomed because a whole lot of fans are complaining about the cost for a replacement fight. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. Before I get into the subject matter of the video though, please make sure if you're not already subscribed to hit the subscribe button. Also share the video, like the video, it'd be greatly appreciated. Now let's get into this topic of Manny Pacquiao and Yordenis Ugas's pay-per-view being in trouble because they pretty much have just acted like it's the same fight that people were originally signing up to buy. So just a little bit of background. Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence were supposed to fight in a pay-per-view fight, biggest fight of the year other than maybe the Errol Spence Jr. versus Tyson Fury fight, but absolutely huge fight. People were amped about it. It's on pay-per-view. The price for the pay-per-view was $74.95. So when Errol Spence Jr. Pulled out of the fight, people that didn't know exactly what was going to happen as far as what was going to happen with the pay-per-view. Is it going to be on pay-per-view at all? If it's going to be on pay-per-view, is it going to be for a reduced fight, for reduced cost? Because clearly, the fight with Errol Spence Jr. was a fight for 2 belts, and it was, the fight again with the #1 welterweight in the world versus Manny Pacquiao, who was, a walking legend in the sport. And there was a lot of, big amount of to do about the fight. Now shifting to when Errol Spence Jr. pulled out with his retina, with his torn retina, switching to a fight with Yordenis Ugas, who was still a good fighter, and it is for a championship belt. So there is a story there, but people were like, what's the situation going to be? But apparently there's no change in plans as far as the price of the pay-per-view. The pay-per-view is still going to be $74.95. And as a result, a lot of people are really upset with it. I personally am not upset with it because I think, I can understand, first of all, I can understand why people would be upset with it. And the thinking is that, this isn't the fight. This is not that big a fight. So if it's not that big a fight, you should be putting it on regular Showtime, or regular Fox, right? So that more people can see it. But obviously, there's guarantees that were in, contractual guarantees that were made for Manny Pacquiao, and Manny Pacquiao has been fighting on pay-per-view. This is, I do believe, his 3rd time fighting on pay-per-view, and I do believe that they've all been right around this price. And quite honestly, in my opinion, this fight is still, I'm still going to pay for the fight because I think that this is an excellent fight, and it's, a fight that sets up the next fight for either the winner of the fight, Manny Pacquiao or Yordenis Ugas. But if you compare it to the other pay-per-views that have been done by Manny Pacquiao, I think they're pretty much equivalent. And that is the Adrian Bronner pay-per-view. I think that Yordenis Ugas versus Manny Pacquiao is a better fight than Manny Pacquiao versus Adrian Bronner, because Adrian Bronner was more washed. He's pretty much a washed fighter when he fought Manny Pacquiao, and that was on pay-per-view. Now, I probably should have done my research ahead of time, but I believe that it was for the regular $75 pay-per-view. I don't think it was one of the abbreviated. I didn't think it was an abbreviated cost of like $50. So you had that pay-per-view with Manny Pacquiao and Adrian Bronner, and that wound up being a good fight. I never heard anybody saying that they were upset. With that. The price of that, or how good a fight that it was. And honestly, Manny Pacquiao really is never in a dull fight. So I can see any fight with Manny Pacquiao that he's in being an exciting fight. The second fight, which was definitely for the full price of the pay-per-view, and I think it was essentially the same roughly $75 pay-per-view for Keith Thurman, that was very well worth it as well. So and it is comparable to this fight with Yordenis Ugas. They are both for the WBA belt. For Ugas, this is for the WBA belt. And quite honestly, I think that we're pretty lucky to be having a fight that this high quality to be a replacement. And it was fortunate that Yordenis Ugas was on that bill and preparing to fight on that card. Now, I know that there's a lot of people that think that is a little bit too much of a coincidence that Yordenis Ugas's opponent Maidana also pulled out with something that I've heard was similar to what happened to Errol Spence Jr. So there's a lot of conspiracy theories, for a lack of I hate using the word conspiracy theory, because that really does trash so many reasonable questions, and by being it's a dismissive term. So, but for this particular way, I kind of this particular time I kind of want to be dismissive. So people using that dismissive term of conspiracy theory or being conspiracy theorists about whether or not what happened with Errol Spence Jr. pulling out of the fight and Maidana pulling out for the fight. I just don't see how that winds up paying off anything for anybody. But regardless, all in all, I like the fight. I like the Ugas Manny Pacquiao fight, and I would have paid for that even if it didn't have Errol Spence Jr. involved in it at all. I still would have paid to see that fight, because I think that it is a quality fight, and there's only a certain amount of fights left that we have with Manny Pacquiao left. Now, I know that I am somebody that's not picking, because I'm telling you right now, I'm not in the business of picking Manny Pacquiao to beat guys like Yordenis Ugas and Errol Spence Jr. In my opinion, age really does come into play. And at a certain point in time, age is what it is. So everybody can wait around for them to discover magically one day it's gone. I'm not going to be the one to do that. Once you get to be 42 years old and you're fighting guys that are in their prime, good fighters that are in their prime, especially like a real body puncher like Yordenis Ugas, somebody that can wear you down over the course of the fight, I'm just not taking Manny Pacquiao. And I know I'm now, at the same time, though, I'm definitely keeping my money in my pocket and I'm not betting on it, because it wouldn't surprise me at all if Manny Pacquiao pulled off the fight. And I'm pretty sure in betting odds that he's favored. But I really do believe that people are underestimating Yordenis Ugas in this fight and just assuming that this is going to be some cakewalk for Manny Pacquiao, and that can absolutely flip on them. And I wouldn't expect that the scoring is going to be crazy for this particular fight either, because in that, I think the fight's going to be in Vegas. I don't think that this is going to be crazy scoring where the hometown guy or the guy that is the most influential or the biggest name is going to get the fight, going to get the call on the cards because of what happened with the WBA and Michael Fox and Maestra just last week, where it was where the ABC, the Association of Boxing Councils, is threatening to punish the WBA and remove their sanctioning. So I think that more than likely you're going to see a call it as you see it type of scorecard out of the judges. And so there's an opportunity there for you Ugas to get the upset. But all in all, I understand why people would think that this fight would cost less money, but really I think this is worth the value, and this is a value, and it's a fight that is, it's definitely worth the roughly $75. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section, and with that, I'm out. Peace.